The stars had always been kind to humanity. For 300 years they had spread across 12 worlds, built cities on distant moons, and learned to call the void of space their home. They were not warriors. They were builders, dreamers, and explorers. In the great order of the galaxy, they were small and unimportant. The older races looked at them the way a giant looks at an ant. Not with hatred, just with the knowledge that the ant did not matter. That was about to change, Commander. Una Park stood at the window of Earth's United Defense Command. She was 42 years old, with sharp eyes and steady hands. She had spent 20 years in the fleet, but she had never fired a weapon in true combat. Humanity had no enemies. There had never been a need. Behind her, the Emergency Council argued in loud voices. Generals pointed at maps. Politicians shouted about rights and laws. Scientists talked about numbers that no one wanted to hear. On the massive screen at the center of the room, 500 alien warships hung in the darkness of space. The Velen Empire had arrived. Their ships were black and red, covered in sharp angles and glowing weapons. The smallest of their cruisers was 10 times the size of humanity's biggest vessel. Their flagship, a mountain of metal and fire, could be seen from Earth with basic telescopes. People all over the world were looking up at the sky and seeing death. Admiral Gora of the Velen. Third Fleet had sent a simple message 3 hours ago. His face had appeared on every screen on every human world. He was tall and gray, with 4 eyes and a mouthful of sharp teeth. His voice was calm, almost bored. "You sit in the path of our expansion," he had said. "You have 1 rotation of your planet to surrender completely. Give us your worlds, your resources, and your people. Serve the Empire, and some of you will live. Resist, and we will burn every world you have touched." This is not a negotiation. This is a fact. The message had ended. The panic had begun. Una turned away from the window and looked at the room full of desperate people. Earth's combined fleet numbered 47 ships. Their weapons were designed for pirates and small conflicts. Against the Velen, they might as well throw rocks. "We need to evacuate the civilians," someone said. "To where?" Captain Tae Kim answered. He was sitting in the corner, his arms crossed. He was younger than Una, but his face looked old and tired. "They have faster ships. They will catch any transport we send. Running just means dying slower than we fight," a general said. "With what?" Tae asked. "Our ships cannot even scratch their paint. I have seen the reports. Their shields can take 100 of our missiles without flickering. We are not soldiers to them. We are insects." The room fell silent. Everyone knew he was right. No one wanted to admit it. Una walked to the center of the room. "How much time do we have?" 20 hours, someone answered. "Maybe less if they get bored." 20 hours. 20 hours until the end of human civilization. Una had a daughter on Mars and a mother on Earth. She wondered if she would ever see them again. In the corner of the room, a young woman sat at a signals console. Her name was Hannah Lee, and she was only 25 years old. She had been assigned to monitor communications during the crisis. It was supposed to be a simple job. Listen for messages. Report anything unusual. Something unusual was happening. Hannah stared at her screen. A faint energy signature was pulsing from the outer solar system far beyond the orbit of Neptune. It was weak, almost invisible. Any normal day, it would have been ignored as background noise. But Hannah had studied old records. She had read stories from the early days of space travel. Humanity first reached for the stars. This signal matched something in those old files. Something that should not exist anymore. "Commander Park," she said softly. No one heard her. The arguing continued. "Commander Park," she said again, louder this time. Una turned and looked at the young officer. "What is it?" "I am picking up an energy signature from beyond Titan. It matches a classified file from over 200 years ago." The room quieted. People looked at Hannah with confusion. "What kind of file?" Una asked. Hannah took a deep breath. "Before we had faster-than-light travel, we built generation ships. Huge vessels designed to carry thousands of people across centuries of space. Most of them were taken apart when FTL made them useless. But one ship never came back. She pulled up an old image on the main screen. It showed a massive vessel, long and gray, built like a city that could fly. The name on its hull was written in old Korean characters. Ekdu Hana said. It launched in 2089, heading for Proxima Centauri. It carried 3,000 colonists. It was supposed to arrive after 150 years, but it never sent any messages. It just vanished. Everyone assumed it was destroyed. Juna stared at the image. And you think this signal is from that ship? The energy pattern matches exactly, Hannah said. Nothing else in our records has this signature. Commander, if I am right, the BIDU is out there. It came back. The room was completely silent now. Outside the window, the Velen fleet waited like hungry wolves. Captain Tay stood up slowly. Even if that old ship is out there, what good does it do us? It is 200 years old. It probably has no weapons. It is just a floating museum, maybe Yuna said. Or maybe the people on that ship spent 200 years learning how to survive. She looked at Hannah. Can you get a clearer signal? I can try. Yuna nodded. It was probably nothing. It was probably just false hope. But right now, false hope was all they had. Do it, she said. Find out what is out there. Hannah began working at her console. The generals and politicians started arguing again. The clock continued to count down 20 hours until the end. But somewhere in the cold darkness, beyond Titan, something old and forgotten was waking up, and it was coming home. The small scout ship cut through the darkness like a knife. Inside, Lieutenant Daewon gripped the controls with white knuckles. Beside him, Ensign Suwon watched the scanner with wide eyes. They had been flying for 6 hours. Behind them, Earth was a small blue dot. Ahead, there was only blackness and the faint pulse of an impossible signal. How much further? Day asked. Sue checked her instruments. 10 minutes. Maybe less. The signal is getting stronger, Day nodded. He had been in the fleet for 15 years. He had seen strange things in space. Broken stations. Dead ships. Once, he had found a vessel full of frozen bodies drifting near Jupiter. But nothing had prepared him for this mission. Commander Park had given him simple orders. Find the source of the signal. Report what you see. Do not engage. Do you think it is really the Baekdu? Sue asked. She was young, only 23. This was her first real assignment. I do not know, Day admitted. That ship disappeared before my grandmother was born. If it is still out there, the people on it would be the great-great-grandchildren of the original crew. 200 years in space, Sue whispered. What would that do to people? Day did not answer. He did not want to think about it. The scanner beeped. Something large was appearing on the screen. Very large. There, Sue said, pointing. Directly ahead, they slowed the ship and activated the external cameras. For a moment, he saw nothing but stars. Then the shape emerged from the darkness, and his breath caught in his throat. The Baekdu was still alive, but it was not the same ship that had left Earth 200 years ago. The original vessel had been a simple cylinder, built for efficiency and nothing else. What Day saw now was something transformed. The hull was covered in layers of new metal, patched and reinforced countless times. Weapons systems jutted from every surface, designs that Day did not recognize. Some looked almost alien. The ship was scarred and battered, marked by centuries of damage and repair. But it was also bristling with power. Energy hummed along its surface like lightning trapped in a bottle. What happened to them? Sue breathed. Before Day could respond, his communication system crackled to life. A calm voice spoke in Korean, but the dialect was old, almost ancient. Unknown vessel. Identify yourself. You approach the Baekdu. State your purpose or be treated as hostile. Swallowed hard. This is Lieutenant Daewon of the Earth United Defense Force. We received your energy signal. We came to investigate. There was a long pause. Then the voice returned, softer now. You are from Earth. Yes. Another pause. When the voice spoke again, there was something different in it. Something like emotion, carefully controlled. This is Captain Ho Young of the Baekdu. We have waited a very long time to hear those words. Lieutenant, we have been watching the alien fleet near your planet. We heard their message. We know what they plan to do. Day felt his heart racing. Captain, Earth needs help. We cannot fight them alone. Our weapons are useless against their ships, we know, Ho Young said. That is why we came back. Communication ended. A moment later, a docking bay opened on the side of the massive ship. Lights flickered on, guiding them inside. Day looked at Sue. She looked back at him. Neither spoke. He guided the scout ship into the bay. Inside the Baekdu, everything was old but clean. The walls were metal, worn smooth by generations of hands. The lights were dim, saving power. Everywhere there were signs of careful maintenance, of people who had learned to make everything last. A group waited for them at the end of the docking bay. They wore simple gray uniforms, patched many times. Their faces were calm, patient, and watchful. At their front stood Captain Ho Young. He was tall for an older man, with gray hair cut short and eyes that seemed to look through everything. He moved like someone who had never wasted a single motion in his entire life. Welcome to the Baekdu, he said. I am Ho Young. This is my first officer, Commander Mira Beek. The woman beside him nodded. She was younger, maybe 40, with sharp features and hands covered in small scars. Mechanic's hands. Fighter's hands. Thank you for receiving us, Day said. Captain, what happened to your ship? What happened to your people? Ho Young smiled slightly. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen too much. We left Earth to find a new home, he said. We never found one. Instead, we found the galaxy as it truly is. Dangerous, cruel, full of species who see the weak as food. We learned to stop being weak. You encountered aliens? Sue asked. 3 times, Mira answered. Her voice was flat, matter-of-fact. The first species tried to capture us for study. We destroyed their boarding parties and took their weapons. The second tried to enslave us. We crippled their ships and left them drifting. The third thought we would be easy prey. She shrugged. They were wrong. Day stared at them. These people had been alone for 200 years. They had fought and survived without any help from anyone. They had transformed themselves from colonists into warriors. Call ourselves the Long Dark Children, Ho Young said. We are the descendants of those who left Earth so long ago. We are 1,847 souls. We have no home, no nation, no flag, but we are still human. His eyes hardened. And we did not cross 2 centuries of void to watch our species die. Can you help us? Day asked. Can you fight the Velen? Ho Young looked at Mira. She nodded. We can do more than fight, he said. We can teach you how to win. Behind them, the ancient engines of the Baekdu began to hum with power. The ghost of Titan was awake, and it was hungry for battle. The Long Dark Children were coming home. The council chamber on Earth fell silent when Captain Ho Young walked in. He moved slowly, calmly, like a man who had learned that rushing never helped anything. Behind him came Commander Mira Beek, carrying a small device in her scarred hands. Commander Una Park stood to greet them. She had seen the images from Lieutenant Day's scout ship. She had read the reports, but seeing the Long Dark Children in person was something else entirely. They looked human, but there was something different in their eyes. A patience that came from waiting for years. A hardness that came from fighting alone. Captain Ho Young Una said, On behalf of Earth and all human colonies, I welcome you home. Ho Young bowed his head slightly. Thank you, Commander. Though I must admit we never truly left. Earth was always with us, in our stories and our dreams. We simply took a very long time to return. Admiral Keenom stepped forward. He was a large man with a loud voice, used to commanding attention. Captain, we have 15 hours before the Velen deadline. Your ship is impressive, but it is still one vessel against 500. What exactly can you offer us? Ho Young did not seem bothered by the harsh tone. He simply turned to Mira. She placed her device on the table and activated it. A holographic image appeared, showing detailed blueprints of Velen warships. We have been studying your enemy for 3 days, Mira said. Their ships are powerful, but predictable. Their weapons are strong, but slow to reload. Their shields can take heavy damage, but they have one weakness. She pointed to a section of the hologram. Their entire fleet is controlled by a networked combat system. Every ship shares information with every other ship. This makes them very efficient. It also makes them vulnerable. Vulnerable how? Yuna asked. If you can corrupt the network, you can turn their strength into a disaster, Ho Young explained. We have encountered similar systems before. 3 times we faced enemies who relied on connected combat intelligence. 3 times we found ways to break them. Paused, letting his words sink in. We carry a weapon that took our engineers 70 years to perfect. It is not a bomb or a missile. It is a virus, one that spreads through quantum communication channels. Once it enters the Velen network, it will make every ship see every other ship as an enemy. Admiral Keenum frowned. You want to make them attack each other? Yes. And if it does not work? Ho Young met his eyes. Then we die fighting. But we will take as many of them with us as we can. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Captain Tae Kim spoke from his corner. Even if your virus works, we cannot just sit here and wait. The Velen will destroy Earth before you can deploy it. Correct, Myra said. That is why we need your fleet to fight. Not to win, but to distract. To keep them busy while we get close enough to deliver the virus. You want us to be bait, Tae said. I want you to be warriors, Ho Young replied. Your ships are not as strong as theirs. But war is not just about strength. It is about will, timing, and sacrifice. We will teach you tactics we learned in the long dark. Ways to hurt enemies who think they cannot be hurt. He looked around the room at the frightened faces. 200 years ago? We were colonists, farmers, teachers, engineers. We had never held a weapon. We had never seen war. The galaxy taught us differently. It tried to crush us, enslave us, erase us. We survived because we refused to die. His voice grew stronger. You're not weak. You have simply never been tested. Today, that changes. Today, you learn what humans become when they have no choice but to fight. For the next 8 hours, the Long Dark Children worked alongside Earth's commanders. They shared battle plans, weapon modifications, and tactics that no military academy had ever taught. Hannah Lee sat with the communications team from the Baekdu. They showed her how to jam enemy sensors using simple frequency shifts. It was old technology, almost primitive, but it worked because no one expected it. Captain Tae studied ship formations with Myra. She taught him how to use gravity wells as weapons, how to make enemy missiles chase ghosts, how to sacrifice one ship to save 10 others. Yuna spent hours with Ho Young himself. He spoke quietly, sharing stories of battles fought in the darkness between stars. He told her about the first time the Baekdu faced an enemy, how they lost 400 people in a single night, how they mourned, then learned, then became stronger. We were not born warriors, he said. We became them because we had to. You will become them too. How can you be so sure? Yuna asked. Ho Young smiled. Because I have watched your people for 3 days. I have seen how you respond to fear. You argue? Yes. You panic? Yes. But you do not give up. You keep looking for answers. That is the most human thing of all. He looked out the window at the stars. The Velen think they are predators. They believe strength is everything. But they have never faced an enemy who fights with nothing to lose. They have never seen what desperation can create. Yuna followed his gaze. Somewhere out there, 500 warships waited to destroy everything she loved. We are going to lose people, she said quietly. A lot of people. Yes, Ho Young agreed. That is the cost of survival. The question is whether you are willing to pay it. Una thought of her daughter on Mars, her mother on Earth, the billions of humans scattered across 12 worlds. Yes, she said. We are. Ho-Young nodded. For the first time, something like warmth entered his ancient eyes. Then let us begin. The clock continued counting down. In 7 hours, the battle for humanity would start. And for the first time, Earth would fight back. Admiral Gora sat on his command throne and watched the time run out. One full rotation of the little blue planet. That was how long he had given the humans. It was more than they deserved. His officers stood at their stations, bored and impatient. This was not a battle. It was an execution. The humans had no real ships, no real weapons, no real chance. The Third Fleet would crush them, take their worlds, and move on to more important matters. The timer reached 0. Admiral, one of his officers said, "No surrender signal from the planet?" Gora blinked his 4 eyes slowly. So they choose death. How disappointing. He waved a clawed hand. Begin the advance. Destroy their fleet first, then burn their cities. 500 warships began to move. Far across the solar system, Commander Una Park watched them come. She stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship, the Horizon. Around her, 46 other human ships waited in formation. All ships report ready, Captain Tae Kim said from his own vessel, the Wanderer. Long dark children? Una asked. The Baekdu is in position behind the moon, Hanali reported. Captain Ho-Young says they are ready to move on your signal. Una took a deep breath. This was it. The moment everything changed. Remember the plan? She said into the fleet channel. We are not trying to destroy them. We are trying to survive long enough for the Baekdu to reach their flagship. Hit them, move, stay alive. Every second we last is a second closer to victory. She paused. Good luck to all of us. The human fleet moved forward. Admiral Gora watched the small ships approach with mild amusement. They were like children throwing stones at a mountain. He almost admired their courage. Almost. Sir, an officer said, one of their ships is broadcasting a message. Let me hear it. The communication system crackled. A calm voice spoke in the Velen language, old but clear. This is Captain Ho-Young of the human vessel Baekdu. We are humanity. We do not yield. Come and learn why. Gora leaned forward. A human speaking Velen? How curious. Where is that transmission coming from? Behind the planet's moon, sir? A single vessel. Very old design, but our sensors show unusual energy readings. Gora smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Send 10 cruisers to destroy it. The rest continued toward the main fleet. The battle began. The first Velen cruisers reached the human formation and opened fire. Missiles streaked through space. Plasma beams cut across the darkness. 3 human ships exploded in the first minute, but the humans did not break, using tactics taught by the long dark children. The Earth fleet scattered and regrouped like a school of fish avoiding a shark. They dove toward planets and moons, using gravity to throw off enemy targeting. They launched decoys that confused Velen sensors. They fired at engines instead of shields, slowing enemy ships rather than trying to destroy them. The 10 cruisers sent after the Baekdu found nothing behind the moon. The old ship had already moved, using a gravity slingshot to launch itself toward the main battle at incredible speed. Gora demanded. We lost it, sir. It is too small, and their electronic countermeasures are disrupting our tracking. Find it. But the Baekdu did not want to be found. It danced through the battlefield like a ghost, appearing for seconds at a time, firing weapons that should not exist on a ship so old, then vanishing again. Velen cruisers tried to catch it. They crashed into each other instead. On the bridge of the Horizon, Una commanded her fleet with desperate precision. She had lost 12 ships in the first hour, 12 crews, thousands of lives. But they were holding. The Baekdu is 40% of the way to the flagship, Hannah reported. They need more time. We'll give them time, Una said. All ships, execute pattern 7. Draw them toward Mars. The human fleet turned and ran toward the red planet. The Velen followed, angry now. Determined to crush these annoying insects, Captain Tae Kim's ship, the Wanderer, took a direct hit. Half his engines went dark. Tae. Yuna shouted. I am alive. His voice came back, strained, but steady. Hull breach on deck 3. We are still fighting. The Baidu continued its impossible journey. Ho Young stood at his command chair, watching screens that showed damage reports from every section of his ship. They had taken hits. Shields were failing. Fires burned in the lower decks. We are at 60%, Mira reported. 20 minutes to the flagship. Can we last 20 minutes? Mira looked at the damage reports. We will have to. Admiral Gora was no longer amused. He had lost 40 ships. 40. To these primitive creatures, his rage burned hot. All ships concentrate fire on that ancient vessel, he ordered. Destroy it now. The Velen fleet turned its full attention to the Baidu. 300 ships opened fire at once. The old frigate shook and screamed. Metal tore. Systems failed. Bodies fell, but it kept moving. 70%, Mira said, blood running from a cut on her forehead. 10 minutes. Another hit. The lights went out, then came back dim and red. 10%. 5 minutes. Ouyang gripped his chair as the ship bucked beneath him. Around him, his crew worked in silence. No panic, no fear. They had lived their entire lives preparing for this moment. 90%. Myra whispered. 2 minutes. Prepare the virus, Ho Young ordered. The flagship loomed ahead, massive and terrible. Gora watched the battered human frigate approaching. It was barely holding together. Smoke poured from dozens of wounds. It should have been dead already. What are they doing? He muttered. They cannot possibly hurt us. The Baidu reached optimal range. Now, Ho Young said. Mira pressed a single button. The virus launched. It was invisible, traveling on quantum waves that moved faster than light. It entered the Velen network through 1,000 tiny holes. It spread from ship to ship in milliseconds, and then it activated. Every Velen ship suddenly saw every other Velen ship as an enemy. The fleet turned on itself. Admiral Gora watched in horror as his own cruisers opened fire on each other. Explosions bloomed across his formation. Ships rammed into ships. Chaos consumed everything. What is happening? He screamed, Stop firing! Stop firing! No one listened. The network was broken. Every ship was alone, terrified, attacking anything that moved. In 17 minutes, 312 Velen warships were destroyed, not by humans. By themselves, the survivors fled into hyperspace, their network severed, their coordination shattered. Gora's flagship was the last to leave. What are you? He transmitted one final time. From the burning bridge of the Baidu, Ho Young answered. We are what you made necessary. And there was only silence, and the distant light of Earth, still alive. The silence after battle is a strange thing. One moment, the universe is full of fire and screaming metal. The next, there is nothing but the soft hum of damaged systems and the slow drift of wreckage. Commander Unipark stood on the bridge of the horizon and stared at the empty space where 500 enemy warships had been. Now, there were only broken pieces, floating like dead leaves on a dark ocean. Damage report, she said quietly. We lost 19 ships, Hanley answered. Her voice was tired but steady. 8 more are badly damaged. Total casualties still being counted, but initial estimates are around 4,000. 4,000 lives. Yuna closed her eyes for a moment. 4,000 people who would never go home, never see their families again. The weight of it pressed against her chest. But humanity was still alive. 12 colonies. Billions of people. They would survive. What about the Baidu? Hannah checked her console. They are not responding to communications. But I am detecting life signs. They are drifting near the moon. Send rescue ships immediately. The damaged frigate hung in space like a wounded animal. Fires had been put out, but the ship was dying. Its engines were cold. Its shields were gone. Holes covered its hull like wounds on ancient skin. Inside, Captain Ho Young sat in his command chair. Blood dripped from a wound on his temple. Around him, his crew worked slowly, carefully, treating the injured and counting the dead. "How many did we lose?" he asked. Commander Myra Beek looked at her tablet. Her hands were shaking slightly. 217. The engine room took the worst damage. Chief Engineer Tay was among them. Ho Young nodded slowly. Chief Engineer Tay had been his friend for 40 years. They had played chess together every week. Now he was gone, like so many others who had lived and died on this ship. "The virus worked," Mira said. "The enemy fleet destroyed itself. Earth is safe." "Yes," Ho Young agreed. "We finished what our ancestors started 200 years ago. We protected our home." He looked around the broken bridge, at the screens showing damage that could never be repaired, at the people who had given everything for a world they had never seen. "The Baekdu will not fly again," Mira said gently. "I know." Ho Young smiled slightly. "Perhaps that is fitting. We have been wandering for so long. Maybe it is time to rest." Earth rescue ships arrived within the hour. They docked with the dying frigate and began evacuating the long, dark children. Some walked on their own. Others were carried on stretchers. All of them were quiet, looking at the blue planet through the windows with eyes full of wonder. For 200 years, Earth had been a story, a dream, a memory passed down through generations. Now it was real. Hanging in the darkness like a jewel made of water and light, a young woman from the Baekdu pressed her hand against a window. Tears ran down her face. "It is so beautiful," she whispered. Beside her, an old man nodded. "That is why we fought," he said. "That is why we came home." The weeks that followed were filled with celebration and mourning. Humanity had won its first true war, but victory had come at a terrible cost. Memorial services were held on every colony. Names were carved into stone and steel. Stories were told of those who had given their lives. The survivors of the Baekdu were welcomed as heroes. Their knowledge was shared freely with Earth's scientists and engineers. Within months, humanity began building new weapons, new shields, new ships, based on designs perfected over 2 centuries of wandering. The long, dark children settled on Earth. On Mars, on all the worlds their ancestors had dreamed of reaching. They were strange at first, quiet and patient in ways that made other humans uncomfortable. But slowly, they learned to live among their own kind again. Commander Una Park was promoted to Admiral. She led the effort to build a new united human fleet, one that would never again be caught defenseless. Captain Tae Kim became her second in command, his damaged ship repaired and renamed the Phoenix. Hannah Lee became the official historian of the long, dark children. She spent years interviewing them, recording their stories, preserving their memory for future generations. Captain Ho Young lived another 30 years. He never took another command. Instead, he spent his days teaching young officers, writing about his experiences, and watching the stars from the surface of Earth on clear nights. He would sit outside his small house and look up at the sky. Sometimes Hannah would join him, asking questions, listening to answers. "Do you miss it?" she asked once. "The Baekdu?" The long, dark. Ho Young thought for a long moment. "I miss my friends who did not live to see this. I miss the quiet of deep space. But no, I do not miss the darkness." He smiled. "I have spent 200 years dreaming of sunshine. I intend to enjoy it." The Velen Empire never threatened humanity again. Word spread across the galaxy about what had happened at Earth. The youngest spacefaring species had defeated one of the oldest. Not through superior technology or numbers, but through stubborn refusal to die. Other races began to watch humanity with new eyes. Some with fear, some with respect, a few with curiosity, and in the rebuilt hull of the Baekdu, now preserved as a monument on Earth's moon, a simple plaque was placed next to the original mission statement from 2089. The old words read, "We go not because it is easy, but because we must. We carry the hope of Earth into the long dark. Whatever we become out there, we will remain human." Below them, new words were added. "We left as dreamers. We returned as warriors. We never stopped being human. When Captain Ho Young died at the age of 97, he was buried on Earth in a small cemetery overlooking the sea. Thousands attended his funeral, including Admiral Unipark and the last surviving members of the original Baidu crew. Hannah Lee gave the final speech. She was old now herself, her hair white, her hands wrinkled. But her voice was still strong. "He told me once that survival is the most human thing of all," she said. "Not conquest, not glory. Just the simple, stubborn refusal to give up." The long, dark children spent 2 centuries learning that lesson. They came home to teach it to us. She looked up at the sky, where stars were beginning to appear in the evening light. "We are no longer alone in the universe. We are no longer safe. But we are no longer afraid, because we know now what we are capable of. We know what we can become when we have no choice but to fight." She smiled. "We are humanity. We do not yield." The crowd was silent. Then, slowly they began to applaud. Above them, the stars continued to shine, cold and distant. But they did not seem quite so threatening anymore. Humanity had found its place among them, and they would never forget the long, dark children who had shown them the way.